You're listening to LVB Podcast Show with your friend, advocate, and host, Alvaro.
Hello and welcome to LVB Show. My name is Alvaro and I'm very happy to be with you tonight. So before I introduce our guest, I want to say thank you so much to everyone listening from the United States, from Canada, from Australia, from Europe, from Latin America, from Africa, and everywhere else where they are listening to the show right now. If you want to be on the show, remember you can email me at lowvisionbureau@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on Twitter at lowvisionbureau. Okay, so this interview is interesting to me because, as many of you know, I worked for 2 years for a great organization in New York City called Art Beyond Sight. And with Art Beyond Sight, we promoted everything related to culture and the arts to people with disabilities. So for me, it's a pleasure to invite tonight someone who knows a lot about art. He's blind, he's from Puerto Rico, and I don't want to say more. He's going to tell us more about him. So thank you so much, Luis Felipe, for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Alvaro, for your kind invitation. It's a pleasure to be talking to you tonight.
The pleasure is all mine, my friend. And can you tell us your full name and tell us a little bit about your life?
Yes, my name is Luis Felipe Passalaq. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I have a bachelor's degree in science from Sacred Heart University here in Puerto Rico and a post-bachelor's degree in medical illustration from Ohio State University. I graduated from Ohio State in 1990 and founded my own company, Worldwide Biomedic Images. I had a very successful career as a medical illustrator until in 1995 I lost my eyesight. I was living at that time in San Antonio, Texas. My family then brought me back to the island, and after going through all those stages that one goes through after a traumatic experience or loss, I made the decision of keep on being an artist, even if I couldn't see. And since I couldn't illustrate anymore, I made the decision to become a sculptor. So I registered as a student at the Escuela de Artes Plásticas de Puerto Rico Fine Arts School, and I became there the first blind student in the history of that university. I finished my studies there in the year 2000, on December 2000, and on 2001 I started my career as a professional sculptor. I'm the only professional blind sculptor in Puerto Rico and one of the few blind artists in the world. And I also that same year started my career as a professional conference, a motivational speaker. And I started teaching courses in sculpture for persons with disabilities and without disabilities in 2005, and started my career as a writer in 2012.
Wow, that is very impressive, I have to say, Luis Felipe. And Luis Felipe, if I may ask, what happened? What made you lose your sight?
Well, in 1995, Christmas 1995, I lost my sight due to meningitis complicated with hydrocephaly. And I was so ill that all the prearrangements with a funeral home were made, so my body could be transferred from San Antonio back to the island.
Wow, it was so serious, huh?
Yeah, it was because it was misdiagnosed. I'm sorry. for the first time, it was a very rare case of the meningitis that I caught, and they couldn't diagnose it, so it was complicated by hydrocephaly, and that's what affected my optic nerve, and then I went blind. But it was 90 days fighting for my life. It was a long time.
Luis Felipe, I don't have the following question in my list, but
Okay.
I think it's a good one.
Okay.
From all the process of losing your sight, what was the most difficult thing?
Well, first was the darkness. That was the first thing. I mean, I could feel it physically. I felt like it was something that wrapped around me and was uh, asphyxiating me. And I was so weak. I couldn't get out of bed, so I felt like I was inside a coffin. Then after that, after I was a little stronger, I was still afraid of the dark, but the sense of that I couldn't. I lost everything. I lost everything I owned, my career. So I didn't know how I was going to earn my living. I didn't want to be, a burden to anybody, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. My whole reality changed, and I couldn't recognize anything. Since my brain was affected, I couldn't even find my mouth to eat or clean my teeth. I mean, I tried, but my senses were affected very badly. So I have to start by learning how to feed myself. So it was very scary. And I went into a deep depression. I just wanted to die. I wanted to kill myself, but I didn't do it because I was aware that all my loved ones have gone through so much pain with everything that happened to me that I just couldn't bear given to give them another thing to make them suffer. So I didn't know what to do, and that sense of not knowing what's the next step, where to go, it was terrible.
Wow, that's very powerful, Luis Felipe. I have to ask then, what was your rock? What made you survive?
Um, I think my faith, but I'm not talking regular faith. Let's put it that way. It was the faith I discovered in my own light. I remember one day I was so depressed. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to clean myself. I didn't want to talk to anybody. So they gave me some medicines, and I took them for a couple of days. And then one day in the afternoon, I felt like taking a shower, and under the shower, I started crying. I haven't had, I don't know, the sensibility to cry all through this process. And at that afternoon, I started crying. I couldn't stop crying, and all the pain, all the hurt, all the fear that was inside of me, that was killing me like a cancer, came out. And I prayed to God. I asked Him to help me to find my way in the darkness, to find my place in life again. And then I went to bed, and I was very tired of living, but I was like in some sort of void of silence. And then that night I had a dream, and in that dream I was in a place of total darkness, and I see a very thin ray of light that uh, came from top, from heaven or whatever, down in front of me, and then as it expanded, it illuminated a sculpture. And it was the figure of an angel coming out from the darkness with one hand towards me, and in his hand there was a speck of light. And I remember I approached the sculpture, got near it, and I was looking at all its details, and all of a sudden I started touching it, and I started touching and touching all its details, and then I heard a voice that came out of the light that said to me, "This is what I want you to do." The next day when I woke up, I felt I found my way. I was gonna keep on being an artist. I was going to be a sculptor. So I went and bought some plastilene, and since I knew anatomy from the knowledge I had as a medical illustrator, I started recreating that sculpture. And then I found out I didn't know what to do, so I needed to go take some classes. And to do that, I had to learn to be a blind person. I didn't have a cane. I was afraid of a cane. The cane to me was a source of embarrassment. I didn't want to be blind. But now my focus changed. It was not on blindness, but on art. I mean, blindness was just something, a part of me, but it was not as important as being an artist. So I decided then to go to school so that I can be taught how to use a cane, how to be a blind person in the world, because I needed to get out there into the world so I can attend a university and be a sculptor. So it was that message that came out of the light. And I believe that all of us have that light inside of ourselves. And if we go inside and find that light, we can find all the strength, all the power that we need to realize, to achieve any goal, to realize any dream that we have. But we need to go inside and believe in ourselves. And that's what that light taught me, to believe in myself.
No wonder for our listeners, you're a motivational speaker, my friend. because you have it within yourself, and it's a wonderful story. You have a book plan, or do you have it already done?
No, I have 3 books already, and I'm writing my finishing. I'm gonna publish my 4th one. My first is an autobiographical novel. It's titled Él, una pequeña aclaración. And then I have 2 whose title is Illuminate. And in those books, they're like, I wouldn't say self-help books, because they have a mystic, a spiritual perspective. What I want to do through all those 3 books is to help people understand what I told you, that we have to believe in ourselves, that we are the ones who have the power to reclaim our life after we're going through serious pain and suffering and loss. And we have to learn to find our own light, and that's why the title is Illuminate.
Wow, that's great. And for our listeners, and I was thinking to talk about art only, and look where we are. That's the beauty of doing this. You never know, what's going to happen, and that's the beauty of finding interesting people like you, and with such an inspiring story, I have to say, and our listeners must be thinking, very, very nice. So Luis Felipe, so many things to say, but going back to the time when you decide to become a sculptor and everything related to art, my question is, where did you begin starting understanding how would you make sculptures, and how that process become a reality?
Well, it was very interesting, and I knew I had in my mind, because of my career as a medical illustrator, I had all a lot of information, anatomy, color, composition, all that kind of stuff. But all that was uh, related uh, to illustrations, not
Right,
three-dimensional work like sculpture.
right.
So I went to the university, like I said, and the problem I faced different problems. My first one was prejudice, rejection, discrimination,
Mm.
because people, that's visual art. And I heard people say, what is a blind person doing here at a visual arts school? And many people, many teachers didn't want to teach me. Others did want to teach me. So when I faced that, I said, okay, I have different problems here. First, since I was the first blind student, they didn't know how to teach me. The ones that wanted to teach me, they didn't know how, because they've never been a blind student there. So I was facing ignorance. So I had to teach them how to teach me something I didn't know how to do. So some of those teachers that wanted to teach me, they blindfold themselves, they try to do their work and find a way to teach me. And then what we would do, we'll try the technique and I will tell them if it was working or not. Because they of course, if you blindfold yourself, it's not the same as being blind, because we develop an extra sense, a sensibility in our hands, and the way we perceive and the smells and all that, all this information we get through our other senses when we're working a medium that sighted people, sighted artists, they don't have that. So we tried first the techniques. Second, one thing that I did was center myself on my reality. I was uh, I was going to learn from a visual perspective, because of course in that school is a visual arts school. So how the artwork looked was important, but that was not important to me because I couldn't see it. In my reality, I had to develop a technique in which my reality as a blind person was manifested truthfully. Not, I was not going to do art the way the other artists did, because it would be false. I will be imitating. I won't be creative from my reality. So I centered myself. That meant that I learned whatever they were going to teach me from the visual perspective, but then I worked extra time so that my work will reflect my reality as a blind person. So that's another thing I had to do. So it was a lot of experimentation. And then what happened was that at the beginning, nobody wanted to teach me. Then everybody wanted to teach me because it was a great experiment. And then I, when I was facing the discrimination and all this, I kept saying to me, you cannot give up because you're not doing this for yourself. You're doing it for the next one, the one that's coming behind you, and the next blind person who wants to be an artist. Because if I failed, when another blind person would try to take classes there, they will say to them, no, blind people can't do this, like I was told many times. So I worked very hard, and then I started getting A's in class because it was good work. And then what happened was that the teachers would say to the students, if the blind student can do it, there's no excuse for any of you because you all can see. So what happened was that they started vandalizing my work. They took nails and scratched my work. They hit it with hammers and broke
Oh,
it.
wow.
They did that with 4 of my pieces. And I remember my mother saying to me, please stop, get out, because she was afraid someone was going to hurt me. And I kept saying, no, no, I'm not doing this only for myself. I'm doing it for the next one. But then after a while that stopped. And finally I learned.
Wow, what a story. And listening to what you say, I ask myself because some people in our community tend to say, I would like to become an artist. But Luis Felipe, what does it take to become an artist if you don't see? What are the steps you need to take?
Oh, I would say first, if you make a decision to become an artist, first of all, you have to be centered on your reality. Don't try to copy anybody else's reality. I know that whatever in the visual arts, it's visual arts. It's how pretty it looks, whatever. But you cannot because you can't see. So you focus first on yourself, right, and your reality. Second, you need to train your hands because your hands are your eyes. And sighted people, they look but they don't see. I mean, I've known people that have walked in front of a building for 5 years and they never saw the building. It's amazing. Yeah, I know a lady. He told me, "Oh my God, I've been walking this street for 5 years. I've never noticed that building there." So, and the same happens with our sense of touch. We use our hands without being aware of all the information that we can get through our hands. So I would say to the person, I say first center yourself. Second, start training your hands. Start really touching things and being aware of all the sensation, the textures, temperature, curvature, the form, the volume, and touch many things, many different things. Because you're training your hands. Once you start working a material, it's a dialogue between the piece of marble, the rock, the tree trunk, or piece of wood, or whatever you're working. Is a dialogue between your hand and the medium and the tools and all this. So you have to train your hands. And then after that, be patient. This is not going to happen fast. First of all, you're going to have the problem that people, first of all, they're not going to believe that you're going to be able to learn. And once you start doing the work, they are not going to believe that you did it. So you have to be patient. You have to try to focus on your work, and so that your work speaks for itself. That your work is good work, not because it was done by a blind person. It is good work because it is good work. See, it stands by itself. So that takes time. It takes humility. You have to be humble. You have to be because in order to learn, you have to accept the fact that you don't know. And I know that of many people, many students, that once they start, they know a little bit, they think they know much more than what they really know. And then they close their ears. They don't listen. So I tell people, open your ears, listen, learn, try, experiment, see, and forgive yourself for your mistakes. After that, find somebody who helps you promote your work. Take pictures. I always say to people, blind students who want to be artists, I say, have somebody film you with videos, so you can have proof that you did the work. Because people don't ask this about sighted artists, but they do ask this about us. Because people don't believe the work we can do. So have videos done about you working.
Luis Felipe, I have to make a comment, and is that for our listeners, it's no secret that for us things become harder, and not because necessarily it's harder for us to do something, but because society imposes something on us that is,
that's right.
We have to go the extra mile to show them twice what for others is once. And
that's right.
So I understand completely what you say, and it's important to say that to our listeners and to people everywhere, because it's a reality that we face.
It's a reality. That's why you have to center on yourself, because if you don't believe in yourself, oh man, they're gonna break your heart. You have to believe in yourself.
Yeah, I so much agree with that. And Luis Felipe, going back to your sculptures that you make, can you tell us about them and how can people find them or see pictures of them?
Sure. I work with anything, any kind of material. My favorite's marble, but I do marble, I do wood, I do metals, plexiglass, plastics, recycle. And this is because since I'm blind, I cannot take a car and go to a quarry when I want to get a piece of marble, or the sawmill when I need a big piece of wood. So so I work with whatever I can find. If I can't find anybody take me there, so I work a lot of mixed media. I love working abstract because it even though I have worked I say figurativo, uh, the human figure, but I love abstract because it reflects the movement of my hands. That's what I work with, the movement of my hands. So they can see, I have videos, I have a channel. There's videos there of my artwork, and I'm work on how I work with it, how I create it. And it's under Luis Felipe Passalaq, my name. Also, you can find me in Luis F. Pasalacqua at Gmail. Also, I'm under Luis Felipe Pasalacqua. I'm in Twitter. I'm in Facebook, and I think that's it. YouTube. So there's a lot of, but on my channel, you can see videos of me working the art, my technique.
That's very interesting, and I would like to know how is teaching other people like.
Well, it's it's very interesting. First of all, it's an adventure, especially when you do the type of workshops or courses that I offer, where you have all these different disabilities in the same room and people without disabilities. And I always say that to me, this doesn't sound very good, but it's the truth. To me, what the student is creating is not very important to me. My artwork is the student, its mind, its heart. I work with those two things. Many times people, and this doesn't matter if you have or not a disability, there's things inside of you that you don't know how to express in words, and art helps you do that. And I try to help the student to be honest in their work. So I have to explore that as I'm teaching the techniques. I won't let any assistant do the work for a student. I don't care. The only one I did let the assistant help was a girl who was quadriplegic. Okay, she didn't move from the neck down. So what we did, she told the assistant what she wanted to do, and the assistant will do it. But all the rest, everybody had to do their own work. And I have discovered very interesting things. I have discovered, for example, that a blind person that's blind from birth touches differently than a blind person that saw, that they could see at one time. And it has to do with the way they move. Someone that was born blind have never seen an empty space. They walk into the space, but they never seen it. They don't have that concept of distance. That if you're blind but you saw once, you could see before, you have that awareness. You're used to running, for example, into an empty space. So when people work with the medium, blind people that once saw, they move their hands, they push the material, they attack the material, they mold the material. Then the blind that was born blind, they don't do that. They just get information from the material. So I have to change techniques. I have to teach that student, first of all, to invade the space of the medium, of the wood or the plastic, whatever we're using, so they can get used to attacking the material. And that's very interesting. So it's very interesting. It's very hard especially when you can't see, because I have to work touching and feeling their feelings and what's going on in their minds. But it's very interesting.
And you also teach people without disabilities?
Yes, I do, but I always teach them. I try to offer my courses that's mixed with people with and without disabilities. But it's easier when people can see or they don't have disabilities because they don't have that baggage, that emotional baggage. See, they just enjoy the work. I have to, with people with disabilities, I first need to work. I have to make them believe that they can do the work. And then once they feel that they can do the work, oh man, they do beautiful things, marvelous things.
Luis Felipe, I wonder, many people are afraid of trying because they feel, oh, what if I am not good at it? What do you say to them?
It doesn't matter. Just enjoy it. Just express who you are, because taste is subjective. You might do some work and a critic or somebody will go there and say, oh man, that's terrible, that's no good. And then the next day someone will go there and say, that's wonderful, you really touch my heart. So I will say to them, forget about that. You just focus on yourself, be true on your truth, and do the work because it's an expression of who you are. It doesn't matter if someone thinks it's good or bad, but listen to your teacher so you can learn.
That's very important to listen always for listeners. And um, I I have a last question, Luis Felipe, and is related to the 21st century and blindness. I want your opinion. How is the state of our community worldwide? You have traveled to many places, you have known many people. What is lacking today for us? What should be improved in our society to have a more inclusive planet?
Well, let me tell you, I've been blind for 24 years now, and the world right now is so different. When I went blind people are doing marvelous things. I've known people who scuba dive, who are athletes, who sing opera, who do so many things that blind people 24 years ago didn't even imagine it was possible for us to do. So we're improving. Our worst enemy is ignorance, because from ignorance comes fear. And I find that what's missing is in our schools, we need to teach students how to interact with blind people, because that makes them conscious of what the problems we face. A lot of those problems are problems as simple as walking a sidewalk, of crossing a street, and things that makes us feel independent. So I think that we're improving a lot, because now podcasts and internet and technology is helping us be more independent. But people don't know. They don't know how to interact with blind people. They don't know about our reality. It's still people, architects and people who design buildings, and people in governments, when they think about their cities, they don't think of the blind people, what our necessities are, because as everything that you do that makes accessibility, things accessible for someone with disability, benefits all the society, all the community. So what I think that what's missing is more information, more education, and make that part of a curriculum. I mean, teach people, students, the new generations, about the world and the necessities of people with disabilities. We have to start with the children.
I have to agree with you all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And Luis Felipe, finally, can you repeat again your contact information, please?
Yes. My email is luisfpasalacqua@gmail. Then you can find me and with my name, Luis Felipe Passalaq at Google, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I have a channel with the videos. And you can see my artwork. You can see me working, creating art, and that's also under Luis Felipe Passalaq. And that's I'm sorry, that's LuisFelipe, P as in Peter, ASSLACQUA.
You just read my mind. I wanted to make sure. Yeah. Well, Luis Felipe, it's been a great pleasure, more for me, even understanding that I have worked with people with disabilities in the art field in a great organization like RB On Site, and it was a pleasure to do that. And so many talents in our community,
Oh, yes.
sometimes hidden from society.
Yes.
They have to come up. They have to come up. But people like you inspire
Thank you.
everyone to
Thank you.
do greater things. So
Thank you
thank you,
very
Luis
much.
Felipe. It was a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
have you on.
Hey, same here. Thank you.
Thank you. And for our listeners, if you want to be on the show, remember to email me at lowvisionbureau@gmail.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at lowvisionbureau. So, this is Alvaro from LVB Show saying good night.